get started, we call the July 9th, 2018 Operations Committee to order. We'll have a prayer. I'll lead us in prayer. We'll have the pledge led by Commissioner Meade. And if you all rise. Oh, gracious Father, we thank you again for another day. We thank you for the blessings you have provided to us. We pray that you touch those families that have lost loved ones in the last month or so, and you touch them and console them and let them know that your faith and grace will carry them through as they battle the times without their loved ones, as they've gone on to greater pastures. We ask that you lead us in this meeting and do the things that are great for this county and moving us forward ahead in a conservative fiscal manner that pleases the majority of this county. We ask these things in your name, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the salute to the flag. Hand salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Meade. Just a couple of housekeeping items here. If you're here to talk on anything that's not on the agenda, you're free to come up and talk. If it is on the agenda, we will be discussing it, and you can certainly come up and talk during those times, but we'd like to have a chance as a committee to kind of talk and figure out. And then when there's time, you'd like to approach the microphone, state your name, your address, you certainly can do so. Now, if at this time there's anything that's not on the agenda that you'd like to cover, you can certainly come forward to the microphone. Again, state your name, address, and you'll have 3 minutes to give us what's on your mind. Anyone out there like to talk? Thank you. We'll go on into the agenda. First item is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
I'll have a motion, a second. Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. First item on the agenda is 205 Main, status update and appraisal review. Mayor, I know you had this on some of your information as well, so please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and I did have to go back to Budget Committee because there's an early cutoff date for purchase orders. So Budget Committee did approve that money rolled back into the fund, and so we are doing you'll be getting in front of you at Monday's meeting, that reauthorization. In the meantime, just other status update. You know, as I've been thinking about this, I also discussed with Cherie, the county did purchase the property for $600,000, and I don't see any reason why we could not go ahead and put that out as a minimum asking price and see what happens and see what we get in response. I do have someone who is interested in the property. I don't know, I'm not authorized to enter into any negotiations on a price because the way the county works, it would have to be declared surplus, and then it goes to a bid process. So that's really the only way to find if there is genuine interest that would meet what we would like to receive as a county. If you want to authorize that, I can work with Catherine in purchasing and go ahead. And there's, you know, obviously, as Jay has said, if we set a minimum asking price and we don't receive that, then all offers are rejected. And I can still be working on the appraisal and come back the next month. If you want to postpone that, you're free to do that as well. That's just an idea that I'm throwing out here tonight. Other things, I know that we have been looking at other properties because the existing facility, the reason we made a purchase was because of the cramped space. So I have looked at other facilities. I know Cherie has. I think some on commission have also looked. I don't have anything to offer you right now. I mean, we found the perfect place, but it doesn't currently fit our pocketbook. But I mean, I'm open to any thoughts from commission. That is the facility owned by The church, it's at exit 122, and I have that in my massive stack here.
Mayor, while you're looking, if it's okay, if we could stay on 205 Main for a second.
Sure.
And we'll certainly roll into,
Okay,
to the senior center.
Okay.
And obviously, they both come together, so you're correct and you're fine. I don't
Okay.
mean to imply you're out of order whatsoever.
Okay.
But I think you bring up some very valid points with 205 Main. I'd like to open up to the committee to get their take and how they'd like to proceed. And I want to thank you for having already somebody interested in the building. And you're correct in what you said. We have to put it out to bids properly. We can't just sell it to the first person that walks up. I'll open it up at this time, then, Commissioner Yeager.
Thank you. This is my first time at something like this, so how is and who does give the minimum bid? I mean, minimum bid price that we're willing to accept? Where does that come from? Do you know?
I would defer to Jay on that, but I believe that you all would need to set that as you're the authorizing body. And so you would need to do that as commissioners. Is that correct, Jay?
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely correct. The one issue is under our policies and procedures for purchasing, that purchasing committee has to declare a surplus first, and then it comes to you. And remember that new rule we've got, the county commission has to declare a surplus also. So you got two levels of approval there. You got the purchasing committee, then county commission. So we can't circumvent one or the other. But the mayor is absolutely correct on the price, the minimum threshold price. And remember, if we do have multiple bids, you can negotiate with the high bidder. So say the high bidder comes in maybe slightly lower than the threshold, then you may want to take up negotiations at that point.
And just so folks at home know, the reason we're looking at this is because of the cost of repairs on the roof. And this might be a better way to address this than investing more money into that facility. So this is just an option in order to prevent the expenditure of those additional funds.
Thanks for clearing that up, Mayor. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you. Mayor, you said that it's due to the repairs of the roof?
Well, that's the lion's share. There still are, I emailed out the inspection. We never have triggered the go to bid on that for the mechanical and a lot of and then the minor issues, and then tying into the sewer with the kitchen, some of those issues. So the lion's share of the cost are the roof issues.
Well, from what I recall, though, the original issue was to do with mold.
Correct.
Was there ever a written report showing it was this kind of mold and this is how much and this is what it was going to take to alleviate the issue?
Yes, we've had a couple of assessments, and the reason we entered into the one is, I'd have to go back and look at what the name of the group is that did the one building-wide assessment after the discovery of mold. We were told there still appeared to be water infiltration. So basically, if we go in, we remediate the mold, then we're going to be repeating the cycle over and over. And so at that point, it was recommended we get a roof consultant. We did that. Then it was confirmed that we are having infiltration and also infiltration in the walls with the water. So again, we can't completely remedy the mold issue unless we remedy the roof and the intrusion in the walls.
Okay. And the appraisal, the copy that we had received through email, that went back to 2015.
Yes.
So, Jay, I have a question for you: is why would we start the bidding out at $600,000 when 3 years ago the value was $685,000?
Was what, 675?
I believe it was 685. 75,
75.
85. Okay.
I'm
It was
not
more.
saying 600. I'm saying you set that
Okay.
wherever you want to see it at.
Okay.
The mayor, I think, just gave that as an example.
Okay. And you said that would actually have to go through
Well,
purchasing
got to
first?
declare the surplus first,
Through
and then
purchasing.
put it out for bid.
Okay.
There's two levels of approval on the declaration of surplus,
Right.
and then purchasing would put it out for bid with that threshold that you would set. this body sets.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Commissioner McCamey.
Jay,
Yes, sir.
on the minimum, say 600,000, would that not scare people off that maybe wanted to bid 575? I mean, what's the purpose of the minimum? Can't we reject any and all bids once they come
We
in?
do have that provision.
And,
It's written in our terms and conditions that we can reject any and all bids.
I mean, you know, if it's 600,000 and somebody's really interested at 575, and they think, well, I'm not gonna give 6, and then they don't bid, and we miss out on that and being able to negotiate with that person.
I understand, but again, I think the mayor was giving you an example.
Right, but I mean, what I'm saying, I guess, is do we need to set a minimum since we can reject any and all bid? Just put it out for bid and declare it surplus and send it out and take bids. And if we get 600,000, that's great. If we get 675, that's even better. But
It gives an idea of the
It,
ballpark that we're looking for, but we can go both ways. We do have that provision in our purchasing policy that we can reject any and all bids. We just got to make sure it's in the packet of the terms and conditions that goes out with the bid. And Catherine does an excellent job, and I'm sure she'll include that, terms and conditions.
And one thing, Mr. Chairman, I did bring to Budget Committee, and I'll show Operations Committee. If that is something that didn't work out, and I don't want to mix the discussion of the senior center with the building, but it is valuable land in an ideal location. And so an architect, this is at no cost to the taxpayers, just drew a rendering. And Jerry White was my van budget tonight. Jackie will be back tonight. This is, I didn't know one of the issues with that land is that it's sloped and there's grade issues for ADA. And so an architect was chatting with me about it, and I said, well, I don't know that it could be fixed for a rebuild. And he said, oh, yes, it can. I'm gonna go out there, I'll walk out there. So this is just a rendering, I mean, nothing fancy, but this is Main Street, so you're looking at Rusty Wallace, Ford over there. Oh, I'm sorry, no. This is Main Street, so this is Rusty Wallace over here, and you could enter there. This has 69 parking places. You can see that you could fit more, but this dotted area is the area that he feels can be sufficiently graded completely flat. This just little sketch is for 8,000 square feet, and this is an overhang where folks could be dropped off underneath, protected from the weather. These dotted lines are if you wanted to expand it and go 10,000 square feet. Or say you wanted to do some other operation or share it with, for instance, a Veterans Museum or some other county function. You might take the senior center this direction and then do 4,000 square feet over there. And then we do have access to this road, so you have, enter or exit both sides. And that's just an idea sketch. And that is, if you look at some of the grants that are out there from USDA, they just came out with some grants. Building a senior center would qualify under the facilities grants from USDA. So that would make good use of the county-owned property. It would continue the campus effect, which is the courthouse, the community center, the pool, the library. Clinton is discussing a Main Street development, and so it would fit in there if this is just one option on what we could do with the land.
Understood.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you for sharing. What's your questions answered, sir?
yeah, that was the only question that I had was, did we have to set a minimum? And I, if we choose to go that route, I would suggest we not set a minimum and just take the bids as they come in and accept or reject.
Commissioner Emmer.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to let the panel know that I'm not in favor of getting rid of the property at all. And we never talked about putting money into it. We never talked about having somebody come in and redo what's there now. I talked to David Brogdon today. David's always done the maintenance and the service on that building. He's never been on the arch part because he said there was never any need to be on the arch part. All the problems, he had re-roofed the back at one time, the section in the back. He had did a repair on the front section where the driving business was, and there was another place in the back. But the water infiltration in the main area is either through one of the windows on the wall or underneath the wall itself, because there's no drainage on that side of that building, and that can be easily taken care of. But I'm telling you now, there's no way. I mean, we looked all over Anderson County to try to find something at that time, and now we found something, and it's worth something. Now we're talking, I don't know where we came up with getting rid of it. I never have understood that. There's not a building here that you can't go in that you can check and why you test for mold. I mean, every building, every location is going to have some kind of mold somewhere in it. So that's climate control. So if we do take care of the building the way it should be, invest some money in it, we'll still have a lot less money than what it's going to take to build a new facility. Now, I agree with the mayor. If we can get grants to pay for a facility, that's one thing. But you're not going to get it. You're not going to build anything for less than $150 a square foot. And if we're talking 10,000, 12,000 square feet, you all can do the math. And we've got a great property, great location. You could put $200,000 or $300,000 in the building, have a nice facility, and still have less than $1 million in it. So I am not in favor of getting rid of the building or the property in any way. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Emmer. Staying on 205 Main, and all these tie together, obviously.
Sure.
So it's good discussion. I just want to point out that we did receive today, and I'd like it to be made available to the public if they want to get it, Jay, this appraisal that you sent out that was done in 2015 on 205 Main. It's 179 pages. I didn't bring the whole dissertation with me. I tried to get it out to Cherie today, also sent it to Dave Conrad, he was in here somewhere. There he is. And of course the mayor. But so there has been an appraisal done on the property back in 2015, and it does say in there it was $675,000 was the estimated value on that appraisal. Now, since that appraisal, we acquired how much property total in our purchase of 600? 1.8. So we own 1.8. Is it 1.87 or 1.8?
I think you're right.
Okay. Okay. So we
I'll
only
take that off the assessment.
because okay. So the discussion here is, and Mayor, from you, how do we want to go forward with 205 Main? What is your recommendation? I'll just say, as the chairman of the operations committee, and I'm just one voice, I think we all want the same thing. And competing and ideas, you know, at the end of the day, the seniors need a facility that will accommodate them. And I don't know if it's that location, new location, you know. So Mayor, I'm going to ask, how would you like to proceed, and what would your recommendation be to this body? And then let's have some discussions on how we think we should move forward at 205 Main.
Well, I want there to be some faith in what I'm telling you with regard to the status of the building, and that's why I've tried to send out the actual, you know, inspection reports. Right. And the roof engineer. It's a company that the schools use, Roof Design Works. I've met with 2 separate architects, you know, the old trust but verify, to see what their opinions are on the building. And so I know there's some differing opinions, but I'm happy to bring Roger in. I'm happy to bring some of these folks in to talk to you all about what it would take to bring this building up to speed. One of the previous parties that was interested in the building did reject it for some of those reasons. So I want you to have faith in what I'm telling you, and if I can provide any more documentation to do that so that you trust what Roger is telling you and the inspections that he's getting done on what it would take to build it up to speed, you know, please let me know that. As far as my recommendation, I don't see any harm in saying if we don't want to spend another dime on the building, I don't see any harm in going ahead and putting it out there on the market, accepting bids, and that would be my recommendation. And, you know, if worse comes to worse and we don't get a great price, we reject the offer and we go to plan B, C, D, E. You know, whether that's investing more money in it, doing a fundraiser, pursuing grants, building a new facility, partnering, and that's where I can come back to you with your options from what we do with this county building.
I think that's a great suggestion. What would the Commissioner Scott?
Thanks. One more thing. You were saying that you're looking at grants through USDA. How long does it take for that to be approved or rejected?
Well, that would be, I mean, they're an extensive process because, of course, I would have to have a design put together, and then you have a lot of information to submit, and I don't know how quickly. But with that in mind, the senior program, I know we don't want to, it's hard not to discuss the two on the same agenda item, but we are currently leasing. We were held to that lease through October. We're doing that already, and the grant funds provide money for that lease under the grant that Cherie has. So we would just look to continue that another, and I would guess 3 years. If we did embark upon a building program and a grant process, I would think it would take that long. One of the things that Cherie is currently working on with a local attorney is the development of a 501c for the Office on Aging. Natalie is putting the financials together on all of that. Other counties do that. McMinn County is a great example. They have almost $170,000 in salaries alone. That is not funded through government. That is through fundraising and grant opportunities and all of that community partnership. So I think there are ways to do all of this. It just, of course, everything just takes, you know, a ticker list. We do it one thing at a time, and we get the seniors what they need in terms of programming.
Right. I'm looking at this piece of property. I mean, we've had it from being a spectacular building and a spectacular location to, we've got issues. And then it was, well, we can turn it into a building for the fleet, for the fleet maintenance. And then it was, well, let's look to sell it. But you just showed us a picture of what it could perhaps look like if we received a grant. So there's so many variables to look at. But I don't want to suggest that we take a path that takes 10 years.
Right. I agree.
Right now, that's our property, and that's a key piece of property in the city of Clinton on the main street. That's why I had originally said, put it out there for 1.3. You know, somebody wants that piece of property, if not us. And I think $600,000 is nothing compared to what the real value of it is. But I would be more inclined to learn more about this grant as well.
Sure. I can send over the announcement. I could not be at the meeting the particular day they announced it, so Leanne went up to, I think it was Johnson City for me, and got all the information on the grant.
Yeah, it's free money. I mean, that should be in our budget.
Is it free money or is it match money, or do you know?
I cannot recall what that particular, I think that one might be an 80-20 on that particular facilities grant.
And maximum award would be?
It's pretty wide open on that one.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've looked at that. I can email that to all of you as the operations committee.
Any other discussions, recommendations, motions from this body? Jay?
Yes, if you don't mind, I need approval to go ahead and enter into a month-to-month with the current existing location. I've spoken with Ms. Portwood. She's willing to go ahead and do a month-to-month with us, no specific term. And that'll make sure that we're way ahead of the curve there on October. and I'll have that ready for you to approve. She's ready to enter into that agreement. And if you want, we can, it's totally up to you. We can send this issue to the purchasing committee to see if they want to take that first step and declare it surplus and move forward in that respect. That's your decision, but I would like approval to go ahead and work on that lease.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the existing lease at the Portwood location
On a month-to-month
on a month-to-month
Month-to-month.
basis. We have a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Yeager.
So are you saying you put the up for auction and this lease kind of in the same sentence? If we don't choose to go with we could choose to go long-term if we want to keep this property as well, though.
You're talking about 205
Right,
Main?
right.
Or, yes, but we know the grant is down the road. We know we're gonna have some place for the seniors. I'd like to secure it now. Ms. Portwood is willing to enter into a month-to-month with 30 days' notice.
At the
So
same
that's-
level? At the same level as what we pay
she
now?
didn't mention any increase
Okay.
to me.
All right.
So that way we can secure the building. We don't have to worry about that. We don't have to be in a rush. We can have it done a couple months ahead of time, get the signatures on it, and the seniors don't have to worry about, are we gonna be out of a place or not? And then we can start slowly be sifting through this other major issue.
Okay, thanks.
Come to you, Commissioner Emmett, just a second. The current lease is through October?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're good to October regardless.
Yes, I'll bring you back a lease to this committee in August.
Okay, did you have something, Commissioner Emmett?
Yes, and it's about this.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't know if it's for the mayor or Jay. I was talking to Ms. Portwood, and she said that some concrete or asphalt had been taken out to pour a pad for a dumpster, and it never was fixed or repaired. Do we know about that? Because that's something else that we're gonna have to address. And do we address that now, or do we address that?
She
At the
just
time.
wants it fixed before we move out.
Okay.
Roger mentioned that to me, that Jay had mentioned to him, and he's on vacation this week, but he is going to take a look at it and,
I was just curious. She asked me, and I said, I don't know what you're talking about. So that's why I brought it up. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
I spoke with the road superintendent. He's been up to look at it, and he said that he could repair that.
Great.
Yeah, so it's county property, and he said he'd take care of it, so.
Any other discussions? Mayor, do you have anything to add? to
No,
that
sir.
Potential motion there. No further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to pursue extending the lease at the current location for the time being, month to month.
that's if needed. Because we are looking, I mean, they do have overcrowding. So if we can find,
One bathroom.
I mean, I know you went out, you've been and looked at a building that would just be our dream building,
Well,
but,
I really didn't go look at the building, but I did look at it online, and
Oh.
and you know, Cherie and some of the others had made indication that would be a good spot to go for the short term until we can come up with a solution to 205 Main, whether you build or tear it down or what have you.
Sure.
But, so we have that motion, we've all voted on it for the lease now of the existing location where they're at the Portwood facility. Now, back to 205 Main. What's the, Commissioner Alderson, sorry.
Mayor, if we got a close to total, if we went through all the estimates, the guesstimations and the roofing and the whole thing, we have a total price of what it'd be on top of the 600?
let me have Roger put that together for you.
I mean, I'm
I
just
would feel-
wondering, are we talking about 300, 350,000, 400, 450,000? What ballpark are we talking in that?
385 for the roof.
Yes, that's for the roof alone, and the
Well,
mechanical
that's
has
what
to
I'm
be,
saying though,
yeah.
do we have a total for all the stuff?
I don't, but I can get Roger's kind of rough estimate. The one area that was kind of gray and we didn't really have a handle on was we worked with Catherine on, we were going to issue an RFP for instance, where the water wasn't tied into the sewer and some of those things. So I don't know that we have a really good idea on that, but Roger can probably eyeball it and take a guess. And maybe even talk to a couple people and see what they think.
It'd be nice to know what it would be.
Okay.
In addition to the 600 to actually make it a decent building.
Okay,
Because it's, I mean, that building's no different than our houses. You have to repair something on your house every year, you know, so I mean, you know,
Sure.
I'm just looking at all the options. If we end up putting 500,000 more in it, and we got 1.1 in it, which way are we going?
Absolutely.
Better or worse? And then will it last us 20 years?
right,
I'd just like to know that
Sure.
as close as
Okay.
possible. I know it's gonna be a ballpark per se,
okay.
but
I'll have him get that for you all.
Commissioner Isbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today at the luncheon, something was thrown out there about maybe the minimum security building that we have that's actually sitting vacant right now. And if we're, and I know it's set up, you know, as a detention facility, but if we're talking about spending another $500,000, could we actually take the $500,000 and put into that facility, which is energy efficient? It's got several bathrooms, and there's a lot of things can be done with petitions. Is that something we could look at as well? I mean, if we're going to spend, you know, $500,000, could we do that and put that facility that we've already paid for or bought to use?
We could talk to the sheriff about that, and Chief Johnson. I haven't been in there in a very long time, so I know it's set up as a dormitory, has a central command, and it has some separate rooms. I don't know about a kitchen facility. Of course, it would be all to ADA, any kind of bathrooms that are already there. It may be something that you could do, you know, a retrofit or even half of it. I mean,
Yeah, and that's just on a suggestion by somebody that one of the seniors there was at the meeting today.
right.
Okay, good discussion. I think, a lot of good discussion. The mayor, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your recommendation was to have 205 Main put out for bids. And, you know, it doesn't hurt to see what kind of interest is in it. I think early on in the conversation, you even maybe suggested that we set that minimum. We've had some here say they don't think it should be a minimum, and that may be the case, I'm not sure. But I'd like for this body to take some action on 205 Main on moving forward in whatever capacity that is, because we have these discussions and then we go on another month. We have the discussions and we go on another month. In the meantime, the seniors are crammed into the current location. People get frustrated, everyone gets upset, and we're not making progress, in my opinion. That's just me talking. So my job as chairman to make sure we move on. You have given a recommendation to this body to put it out for bids, see what it comes back with. We can make a decision once we get a bid back. What's the pleasure of this board?
Sir,
Yeah.
you don't mind, we're gonna have to go to purchasing committee first.
Still have to have a motion.
Yeah,
Yes,
and if
correct.
that might be what your motion is to get it to purchasing committee, let them look at the minimum price, let them declare it surplus, then move it up that way to county commission. That's gonna have to happen at some point before we start the bidding process.
Thank you,
I
Jay.
move to send this to purchase.
We have a motion to send to purchasing, Commissioner Alderson.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on that motion to forward this to purchasing? We have a question, Commissioner Meade.
Well, I'm on purchasing. Okay, when it goes to purchasing, I agree with Ms. McCamey that we don't have to set a minimum because we don't have to accept any bid. I think if you set a minimum, there'd be some people that might want to bid close to the minimum, but not want to go quite that high, and we never know if we even had that choice. The other thing is, there'd be a tendency for somebody, if our low is what they consider a low price, they're not going to bid much over it. I mean, you kind of already said, well, I mean, if I put my house on the market and I say, well, I want this much for it, it isn't that often that people come in and bid a lot more than what I'm asking.
Yeah, it's also the issue of declaring it surplus.
Yeah.
Before we move, that's gotta
Well, that's
happen
why it has to
before
go
we
to
move-
purchasing.
Yes,
Yeah.
we've gotta have that before we
Yeah.
move forward.
But that can all be part of the discussion when it gets there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Alderson, second by Commissioner McCamey. Any further discussion on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
We have one no. Motion carries. Okay, thank you. We've already talked about the senior center pretty much, so is there anything that needs to be added? Cherie, do you have anything you'd like to discuss on behalf of the senior center?
I would like to continue to look for something, but, you know, as you've seen today, it's pretty miserable.
It is, but you still cook good. And we did, Mr. Conrad, come on up, sir.
Speak to this evening, and good discussion, as you indicated. Dave Conrad.
Thank you.
7 Wakefield Place. I'm the outgoing chair of the council. We need to keep in mind that in its current configuration, 205 Main is not suitable for a senior center. The parking lot is not adequate. The ADA issues for entrance and exit are not satisfactory, in addition to all of the other issues to make it suitable. And as has been discussed, at 195, where we are now, is not even close to adequate for the volume that we have. We know that we don't attract near as many seniors as we could and should because there just isn't space. On a regular basis, we have seniors standing in line to go to the restroom. That's just not suitable. So extending the lease at the current location is not really a feasible option for the volume that we have. We need more space. Now, I agree it's a problem getting more space, and I don't have a solution to that. But the situation that we're in is not suitable either.
Thank you, Dave, for your comments. Just one thing that I think of is when all this discussion started a year or so ago, one of the options was to help alleviate some of the crowding right now, I think. And I know it's not conducive because you like to keep everybody together, and I understand that, but we can use the Clinton Community Center. They offered that up. They have ADA accessibility. They have restrooms. And I'm not suggesting that's the solution. I'm just saying that could be an offset during the period that we get these decisions made. So that's just something out there. Any other discussion on the items? Okay, we'll move forward. EMS review of 2018-2019 business plan for mayor and the EMS director. Mayor Nathan, if you'd like to come up.
I'm going to let Nathan address this. He's got a handout for you all. And I do just want to let you all know that we have been discussing a lot of this with the budget committee, and we are happy to do duplicate presentations if that helps on all of this as we go forward. So the initial part, if you recall, the audit, when it came out, it had some critical items, high priority targets that they wanted us to meet, things that we needed to address right away. And so we have been working with the budget committee on that and discussing some of those items. And they and you as commission helped address and tick some of those items off the list. But I'm going to turn it over to Nathan. But again, if you want us to come back to this body as we report back on the long term, if you'll recall, we were supposed to do a short-term and a long-term plan. We can take care of both committees so that it doesn't take up full commission time.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor. Chairman, appreciate this opportunity. As you can see, I just kind of handed out a document that kind of details or shows some of the things that we are currently working on. Again, to echo what the mayor said, just a great start that County Commission has provided. The finance director worked real hard on as well to approve the $800,000 to go towards critical capital outlay needs. So that money is going to be spent on 3 things: cardiac monitors, ambulances, and stretchers. So that's what we're going to use that money on. Trying to work with the finance director on that, how she wants us to proceed. As was talked about at budget committee, that money's approved, but that money's not waiting in a bank account for us to spend. It actually comes in later in the fiscal year. So we're working with her on what options that we have to be able to acquire those items and be able to get them sooner rather than later. So really kind of leaning on her and her department on how to best proceed with that. I know it's end of the year, so they've got a lot of information that they're dealing with beyond this, so I'm really just kind of making sure that when she has time, we can work on that.
Nathan, I don't mean to cut you off. You said 800,000 towards critical capital outlay needs, cardiac monitors, stretchers, and what was the other thing?
Ambulances.
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I apologize. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. So we've got that going, which is great. We were able to go ahead and buy some new cardiac monitors at the end of this last fiscal year. So we just got those in last week, and we're looking to get those fully situated and make sure all of our paramedics are trained on it before we get it out into the field. But they should be getting out into the field somewhere towards the end of this month. So that's great. We'll be able to get those and get those out and have that to augment whatever we're getting this fiscal year. Additionally, the budget that was approved is allowing for us to expand our convalescent division. So that's going to be a great asset to us being able to respond to calls, and also with the mindset of looking at that 2-division model. I know there was a document that I submitted to County Commission several weeks ago in regards to the cost for convalescent, the revenue for convalescent, and my recommendation is that we would have the 2 system model where we have the ALS and convalescent model. So trying to designate our ALS trucks, our paramedic staff trucks, for emergency calls, and having our convalescent trucks, which will be staffed with 2 EMTs, for the convalescent calls. So we're trying to go in that direction. That was my recommendation to County Commission, is that we would take that direction, as opposed to the model we had last fiscal year and prior to, or not doing convalescent at all. That's my recommendation. Ultimately, it is County Commission's decision which model we go with, but that is my recommendation. And going into this year, we're going to try to start making that separation. We won't be able to completely make that separation. We just won't have the staffing quite yet to make that clear separation, but we are really going to push to where we try to keep, especially our 24-hour trucks, designated for emergency calls, and then using the 2-day trucks that we have paramedic staffed to help augment that system as well, trying to keep them out of the convalescent as best as we possibly can. So that was great. Those are 2 things that are going on right now. We are working on getting the staffing for that. It's going to take more staffing to do that, so we're working on doing that. We have 4 people going through orientation right now, and then we've got a testing for EMTs and paramedics coming up at the end of the month to be able to actually really, we need EMTs more so than we need paramedics, because these trucks will be staffed with double EMT. Less equipment, and we're also looking at the smaller ambulances, which do cost less.
Good.
So that'll be another thing that'll help to actually make that the part of the service more efficient. Looking through June through September, this is where we've started to kick off with the public feedback. I know that we've had 3 public meetings. Kudos to the New River. They really represented and had the best turnout. I'm currently looking at doing some newspaper ads to try and get some more public meetings, try to advertise that a little bit better, maybe through the newspaper, and also trying to even set up a way for whether it's an email or a phone call response from the public as well. So if they can't make it to the public meetings, they have an email we can set up that they can email directly to us with that information. So take a look at that. I've reached out to the Courier, and I've reached out to Oak Ridger to see what it would take with that, and of course have to budget for that and move some things around if we can to pay for that. But looking at different ways to try and advertise for that. Task force development and meetings. We're continuing to finalize the task force and set up those meetings. We do have 3 individuals that have expressed interest in participating on that. So we're looking, and we've reached out to some others that would be able to participate in that as well. That we can sit down, and ideally what we plan to do is sit down with the parts of the audit that said the recommendations and the detailed recommendations, and start going through each one of those and say, what would it take for us to do that? What would it take for us to do that? Developing that plan, putting it together, and then coming back to the committees for county commission saying, this is what it would take to do that. And then allowing the discussion at the committee level for commission on which way to go. So that goes back to the review of audit, prioritizing for commission considerations, and then any implementation of changes that we made, evaluating those and seeing how effective they were. Having these convalescent trucks, how effective is that? Has that improved our response times? Has that made it better? You know, one of the things we talked about, or I put in the document that I submitted, we may need 5 convalescent trucks to really separate the ALS, BLS. But we should look at starting smaller and seeing if that actually achieves the goal, then just go ahead and jump into 5. Yes, sir.
Quick question. The convalescent, or the response time on a call, I heard a number today at the senior center said it's 45 minutes. That's not correct, I don't believe. What do you think the response time is? I couldn't remember from the report. Didn't seem like it was that long to me.
No, the county-wide was 19 minutes, and that was for a 911 red lights and sirens response.
Okay, all right.
What about New River?
Yeah, now that might be the case, you're correct.
It might be the
That's what she was
case.
talking
Okay, I
about.
apologize.
Yeah. And it might be the case.
Good point
Yeah,
there.
for New River, some of those farther outreaching areas, it might be the case. To be honest with you, though, typically it's still less than 45 minutes. And anytime anybody has those questions, I'll be more than happy to look on the CAD and see what it said on
I know years ago, we contracted with Morgan County to run a portion of that over there at 116.
Yeah.
And that might be something we'd look at right now is,
Yeah.
you know, we contract with Roane County to handle some of their areas, so, you know, we could contract with Morgan County to run some of that area from Petros up. It's a lot closer
Yeah,
than Lake
that
City
might be a
to
possibility
New
as
River.
well.
So,
Yeah.
Good discussion.
So we'll start evaluating the effectiveness of those changes and start reporting those to the committees as well, how well they've worked and what that means. And then October to January is when we really start to present the plan to the committees, the appropriate committees, if it has to be more than one. Development of the fiscal year ending 20 budget, and then the development of the capital outlay needs for next fiscal year as well. So that's where we'll really start to say, here's the options, here's what the audit recommends, and this is what it would take, and then have that discussion within the committees.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, this is good information. You're still in the process of developing the short-term plans, long-term plans. There's some short-term plans in here, don't get me wrong.
Yes, sir.
But you're putting together those, and then you'll be coming to commission, reporting back on what that plan looks like with the mayor.
Yes, sir.
Is that right? And then, if you don't mind, and it's not a biggie, but I'd like for, when you give information, put the date on it so we know
Oh, yes, sir.
when that, well, it's no biggie, I mean,
Yes, sir.
but that way we know when we got it and also where we're at as we move forward. I want to open it up for discussion. Commissioners, Commissioner Meade.
Well, I just have a quick question. You're talking about the fact that you just recently purchased some cardiac monitors and that now you're going to be able to buy some more. Will they be the same designs so they're consistent with what we already have?
Yes, they'll have
Or
to
has
be.
technology already moved on with it?
No. They'll have to be the same design. They'll have to be the same type. You can't have 2 separate ones and 2. I mean, that would really.
Well, because that's one of the things they talked
budget-wise.
about in the operational report is that we didn't have them all the same because we were buying them over time and
Right. So.
and it is important to have
Most-
consistent, something that's pretty close to the same.
Well, and all the cardiac monitors,
Yeah.
the old ones we have are the same, but we did buy some later, which made they were a later version. They're the same cardiac monitor, use the same equipment.
Okay.
We didn't have to double up on some of
Okay,
that.
so they're not dramatically different.
No, they're
Yeah,
not dramatically.
We're not going from a 4-speed to a
No, sir.
8-speed.
And we haven't bought a whole lot of cardiac monitors over the years, so most of them are 8-year-old. Matter of fact, of the 13 we have, only 2 of them are still covered by an extended warranty. We did not extend them on the others, so we only have 2 that are under warranty.
But they'll be a
Right.
consistent design, so there's not a problem. Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner McCamey, then Commissioner Yeager.
Nathan, basically, the short term, the first two items, 800,000 for the critical capital outlay needs, and commission has approved the budget for this fiscal year.
Yes, sir.
So you're talking about everything from here forward to be presented prior to the 2019, 2020 budget?
Yes. As far as additional improvements and advancements and what the audit talks about,
Right.
yeah, we're going to present those to the committees based off of the discussions at the task force and coming back and saying, here's what we are recommending as a priority, and back to commission for the decision.
But the budget that has been approved for this fiscal year, beginning July 1, that's going to take care of the expansion of the convalescent division
Yes,
and 800,000 for the equipment.
yes,
So we're really talking about next year's budget
yes.
before any major changes, and then all of this will be brought back to us prior to you going to budget next year.
Yeah, this fiscal year, we're planning to operate off of the budget that's been approved, and that's it.
Okay, that's what I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McCamey. Not just one quick point on the budget. If I'm reading it correctly off the county website, under the finance department, it's $5,981,923, which was an increase from the original budget, what I'm reading now. Again, I
Okay.
could be wrong. $5,818,400. So I guess that would be the 800,000 added to that perhaps, so.
That was
again,
last fiscal year.
Amended budget 2018,
Yes, sir, we're in the 2019 budget now.
okay. What's that budget?
I think it ends up being somewhere around 5.3, 5.4 million.
Okay. Commissioner Yeager, I apologize.
Hey, I don't know, I may have missed this answer, but I'll go ahead and ask the question. A while back, you had a Clinton partnership grant that you talked about.
Yes, sir.
What's the status of that, or has it ever been resolved, or?
The block grant?
Yes.
We have not heard anything.
Okay.
We've submitted for it, but we have not heard any kind of response back from them yet.
Okay, all right, thanks.
And if we do get that, then that would be 2 more ambulances, 2 more cardiac monitors, 2 more stretchers.
Okay, great.
Any other comments? Commissioner Emmert?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Nathan, can you tell the people that are watching that the EMS no longer transports deceased anymore? There's a lot of police officers that are aggravated and upset, a lot of upset.
That's
people
not
about that.
true. We do.
So what was the email that we got that said we'd no longer be doing that?
So that was an email that I sent out that made an adjustment. During the day, we just didn't go below 3 ambulances to do the transports, and at night, we were going to have the funeral homes do the transports. Since then, we have decided that we needed to delay that for at least
Okay.
60 days and to discuss what a better option is. Big issue is those calls take about 3 hours. So the major emphasis at night was we only have 6 ambulances covering the entire county at night. So if the city of Clinton ambulance does one of those calls, they're out of service out of Clinton for 3 hours. So Clinton is going to be covered by the Rocky Top, the Andersonville, and the Oak Ridge truck. So they're without primary coverage for 3 hours. The audit also recommends that we stop doing that. We find a different way to do that. So we're looking at some internal ways that we could possibly, instead of using an on-duty ambulance, could we get staff personnel to come in and do those calls with either a backup truck or a different vehicle. So we had a recent meeting with the Attorney General, with Dave Clark and Clinton City and the mayor and myself, the medical examiner's office, and discussed different options. Ultimately, it was quite overwhelming in regards to the law enforcement. They really wanted the professionalism of our service, the integrity of our service and our employees to do those transports. But they also completely understand that doing one of those transports automatically decreases our capabilities of handling 911 calls. So we're all working together to try and find a better solution.
Thank you.
Question.
Thank you. Commissioner Scott?
Thank you. Is it not true that at one time Rescue was involved in doing part of that project?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that not something that you can look to fall back on?
I think it also goes back to some of the points that the Attorney General has as well. And I know from historically, they were using EMS equipment to do some of that. And I'm not sure that Rescue Squad may not have the staff to be able to handle those calls.
My only concern is being from one of the funeral homes where they said it's just shy of impossible to have to do a scrub down on one of their vehicles after doing a transport like that.
Well, and I did speak with all the funeral homes, and you know, one of them did opt out. They didn't want to be a part of it. Another one opted out because the call took them 4 hours.
Okay.
And they said they couldn't commit 4 hours to do it, and I said, I completely understand.
Right.
But they said it just took too long, and then I've had several others that were more than willing to do it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, looking at the proposed budget for 2018 to 2019, off the finance website, code 118, Anderson County Ambulance Fund, it shows estimated $200,001, $346, 201,000. I'll get that right in a minute. $201,346 is the unassigned fund based on July 1st. Again, that's an estimate. Then it says proposed revenues was $5,699,977. Then it says proposed expenditures was $5,700,559. So it looks like to me the proposed budget's somewhere in the neighborhood of 5.7 to 5.8. And again, these are proposed estimated numbers. Are you saying then
yes.
that the
Okay, I see.
budget's 5.4 or?
No, and what I was recalling is the proposed generated revenue is at 5.4.
Okay.
But the proposed expenditures is 5.65.
So the budget was passed, and I apologize, I missed the meeting, but the budget was passed, and are you confident that the budget was passed is enough funds for you to operate the EMS?
Based on the model that we presented, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Right.
Yes.
What we
next item,
recommend.
after Nathan Sue.
Sure. All right, let's move on to the next
Hang on
item.
just a second.
Jay Yeager. Thank you, Nathan.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, Mayor, you're next up, next item.
Okay, yes, sir. We've
property, and I have a request. Am I allowed to say who the request is from? Okay. I have a request from a law enforcement agency that would like to utilize this county-owned property. And I would like authorization for Jay to work up a lease to present to county commission, and that would be for all the maintenance, utilities, insurance, for the use of that facility. We also have the opportunity to perhaps partner with another agency that could use some of the space outdoors in order to provide some emergency response as well.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion on the item?
Is that $1 a year, $2?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have a motion to move to full commission for approval.
So moved.
Oh,
Second.
Well, we already had a motion, I was just restating
I
it.
thought
I
it was like,
apologize, I'm
oh,
trying
I
to
don't
make
know
two
who did
motions
the
in
first
one
and
here.
second. So I
No other
threw it out.
discussion, make sure nobody has any other discussion, okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, motion carries, thank you, Mayor. Next item is, Emergency Operations Center, EOC, joint project with the City of Clinton. Request for authorization to pursue grant funding, Mayor?
Yes, several, I can't even remember, and I didn't have time to go back today to look it up, but this committee and full commission authorized me to be able to pursue the concept of a joint partnership with the City of Clinton. And I have some drawings here for you that is a concept design, and I'm sorry, I only have one copy that I can share there to send around. But this concept is for a joint facility, and I encourage any of you, if you have not been to our Emergency Operations Center, to go take a look at it. Commissioner Meade has attended, yes.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve.
We have a motion to approve and allow the mayor to proceed with pursuing grant funding. We have a second. Any further discussion?
Well, we haven't seen any of that.
Coming your way.
Thank you.
It'll be all right.
I'll share the black
Now-
and white.
We'll
with
take
you,
your word
Commissioner.
for it, Mark.
Well, I mean, I think
You ain't
the,
gonna knock something like that.
Well, we don't even know what it looks like.
Well-
We've got a piece of paper that made it 2 people far.
It is so beautiful, it actually rains, it's gonna rain Skittles over it, and there's gonna be unicorns playing in the yard.
well, my kids will be there for sure. On all seriousness, this is to pursue grant funding, so obviously it's a grant-related item.
I would like you all to back me on pursuing grant funding, and I'm going to approach multiple partners. And for the folks at home that wanna know what we're talking about, it would be a joint facility with a large room for emergency operations, and it would be able to be utilized by our volunteer departments and rescue squad for training, meeting space, but then also it would serve as Station 4 for the City of Clinton Fire Department. And then it would also house the hazmat truck that our emergency management team has. And then it would have an outpost for the City of Clinton Police Department, and if the Sheriff's Department wanted to have a presence there as well, they could be there. It's at the north end of the county on land donated by the City of Clinton. The city is going to be taking up what they could contribute to this, so because it would be a more expensive project, and I'm looking to approach multiple partners, I would plan on coming back eventually and asking for a small contribution from the county as part of maybe a capital improvement plan that we're working on through the Finance Committee. So I would anticipate asking for us to match what the City of Clinton would put into it. And I think if you look at long-term, we should look at offloading that particular facility. It is not ADA compliant. You climb metal stairs in order to make that operable for a county government building. I think we're going to have to invest a lot in it. So I would look to the county to divest ourselves of that building in order to maybe fund a contribution to this facility. So that's just a suggestion.
Commissioner Yeager, then.
Thank you. It says request for authorization to pursue grant funding. Do you have grants in mind, or is this starting from scratch to look for grant funding?
Well, starting from scratch, but I also have reached out to several individuals. I mean, Anderson County, the location of this is near the interstate. I approached the state and talked to different folks like the Commissioner Perkey and others about our central location and the facilities that we do have inside Anderson County, which are Y12. Then we're adjacent to ORNL. Then if the small modular reactor ever gets off the ground down in Roane County, the winds are gonna blow that direction. We would become a primary location in order to operate an EOC and activate that EOC. So I think there are lots of partners to reach out to. The state recommended that we leave space, and so if you'll look, that second floor is not really completed. And that is if we're able to get other partners, you know, maybe, for instance, the National Guard might like a presence there, or TDOT might like a presence there. And so those are just some ideas as I approach partners. But I would like your backing in it, not just to be, you know, a mayor approaching you. I would like your all's endorsement of this effort.
Thank you.
Doesn't lock us in, it just is authorizing me to make the efforts.
Thank you, Commissioner Yeager. Commissioner Scott?
Thank you. And of course, yes, I have questions. Is this a location that, you've got the city of Clinton doing one side of it. Is the county going to man the other half of it?
Yes. So we are currently in, I don't know if you've been to that facility.
Not this, no.
The one we're currently in.
No.
Okay. We're gonna set you up
Right.
with a tour.
And
Commissioner
that's
Meade can
fine.
take
Be a
you
big
on a
tour.
grand tour.
That's right. You need the tour.
But I
It
mean,
won't take long.
So we have, our folks are there now.
okay. Yeah,
It's
this-
right, do you know where the technology building is, ACTV?
Mhm.
It's right across, it's a 2-story building there.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, this will be interesting.
Going down.
Sorry, thank you.
You're welcome, Commissioner Scott. Any other discussion? We have a motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Did you get that okay, Annette, the motion?
I didn't get the second. Who seconded that?
I think it was Commissioner
I
McCamey,
did.
if I'm not mistaken.
Commissioner Alderson made the motion, I second.
Alderson made the motion, McCamey seconded. Thank you, Mayor. Next item, Little Ponderosa Zoo, feasibility of designation of Little Ponderosa Zoo as official zoo of Anderson County. We have some documents attached. Mayor, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. The Little Ponderosa Zoo, and I'm glad James is here tonight. Thank you, James. He's here to answer any questions. I was speaking with TWRA, who, in order to take full advantage of the ability to rehabilitate animals at the Little Ponderosa Zoo, the county would need to trigger some language naming Little Ponderosa Zoo as our official zoo. And this enables them to be able to do some work in conjunction with TWRA. I attached an email from Mr. Smith at the state of Tennessee, who said it does not require that we do any kind of monetary donations, but if there are things that we can do, such as the inmates go out and trim some shrubbery or take off some trash on occasion, that would fit the definition of a contribution. And James can speak more to that. Jay has been very kind, and I didn't want to bother him at this time, but he offered, and so he has a draft resolution. And I think, did you give them all a copy of that already? Okay, go ahead, Jay.
Just a couple of things. Number one, I'm waiting on, this may be amended before next Monday night. I want TWRA to take a look at it. I reached out to Mr. Smith, the individual that sent the mayor the email. We had a couple of choices here, and I talked with Mr. Cox, and he wanted to go ahead and do not only the rehab center, and that's exactly right what the mayor said. That's how it started. So he could, if there was an injured deer or bear or any kind of wildlife, he could take them in, rehab them. But he's asked to go ahead and do the nature center, the rehab center, the animal educational center, to be certified there, similar to our Raptor Center over here at Clinton Middle, and also the zoo. The zoo does require some assistance from the county, but he's told me today he wants no money from us, and just any kind of in-kind assistance, and like the mayor said, with the inmates maybe helping him out there some, that would be all he wants. But anyway, I want you to be aware, I may need to amend this after I talk to TWRA, so if I come back next week on Monday night, I may need to explain some changes to you. So just consider this a skeleton draft. But I put the enabling statutes in behind it. This would allow him to take in classes 1 through 5 of animals, and that's everything. He would be authorized and permitted to take in anything that, but he has to get the permit, but there is no cost for the permit as long as we endorse him as our county zoo. Any questions that I can assist you? And I need you to take a look at these documents behind here, behind the draft, and please email me, and I'll be glad to answer your questions. I know you may have after you read this, you may have a lot of questions, but in the meantime, email myself or the mayor, and we'll get to the bottom of it and take care of any issues you may have on it before Monday night.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay, hang on, we got some discussion. We have a motion, we have a second. We'll go ahead and take that on and take some discussions, but, well, maybe we should, McCamey had his hand up, okay? You all mind holding off for a second?
Well, I have a
Just-
question.
We'll come back to it.
Well, I was just, motion and second to have discussion.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and move forward with the motion then. We have a motion, we have a second, any discussion? Commissioner McCamey.
I'd like to go ahead and forward it to the full commission, subject to the modification by the law director, and recommend its approval.
Is that your motion? That's what I thought.
I agree with that. I want to say, I had some discussion with Jay about this earlier because I had some questions. And this doesn't say that any other volunteer organization or something else can still not get licensed and do this stuff. It just makes this an official for the county, but other things could be there as well. But it does allow all these activities to take part and not have to pay a lot of money and process the licenses the same way. And so it gives us a significant service to the county without costing the county any money. It also would make it legal if we did have an opportunity where some inmates could go over something, because it would be a county-sponsored facility. It wouldn't be a privately owned facility that would prohibit us from using any kind of county assets to assist them. And so I think this is good for the county. Isn't gonna cost any money. Might allow us to use some inmates or something that the cost of doing that is very negligible, because they got to be somewhere, and they like doing that kind of stuff anyhow. And so I'm very much in favor of going ahead with this, but it does need to be tweaked with TWRA to make sure that this is the way they want to see it.
Absolutely. This is just another benefit we have from James Mike Cox, a tremendous individual. I think we all know that. But I'll send you any amendments we have.
Thank you. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you. Mayor, we had talked about inmates, utilizing the inmates for service with regards to the Animal Welfare Task Force, about having them work with the animals. And it was found that there's a lot of research online that tells you that it's good for both sides. It's good for the animals, it's good for the people. I've done my share of volunteering over at Little Ponderosa. It's more than just working with the animals. They need help with everything, whether it's, moving gravel back onto the path, or flipping burgers, or feeding some of the animals, or preparing the food for the animals to be fed. Jay, is there not something we can write into this agreement to have a program where the inmates are allowed to work out there, not just for, when they need them, but specify.
I can reference it, but that's all governed by state law.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not handling the animals.
Oh, I understand.
Okay.
And that's all he needs is
But it
just
is
some
therapeutic
assistance.
for the
He needs
inmates.
manpower, or women power, one of the two. He needs just help all around. But I can reference that, but that's all controlled by state statute.
No, I'm just saying that it is very therapeutic for
And
both
I believe
sides.
Commissioner Val, he's already had discussion. Is that correct?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am here tonight to possibly speak to this. When I spoke with James, the idea that we had, and James had done some research on this as well, the Tennessee Corrections Institute back in 2015 allowed us to take folks such as James or folks at the recycling center or whomever. EMS does this as well. Matter of fact, we had one of these classes today where we put them through a certain amount of training, and then the state allows us to allow them to supervise inmates. In the meantime, in my new position at the jail, we have been trying to find more eligible inmates to be able to go out. That's been one of the problems we've had recently. If Faber were here, he'd tell you the same thing. We just hadn't had a lot of inmates over the last year or so that we could put in these outdoor working positions. We were limited on that. That's improved, if that's the correct term to use, but we now have some more inmates that we can draw from to allow to go out on these work crews. And we will be more than happy, and we will work with James as far as scheduling to get those out there. And unless James has changed his mind, he's volunteered to go through the training to be able to supervise the inmates. So there's not even gonna be a cost with a deputy from the jail to be able to transport them out there. We'll just take, or I'm sorry, to supervise them while they're out there. We'll take them, drop them off or whatever. So all of this, we've discussed it. We think we can work it out, and we're more than happy to try to work it out, to be a part of what James does.
Good.
We've discussed all this. We've got it worked out.
Good.
We can make it work.
Yeah, animals can make a difference to someone that needs it. So, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Commissioner Emmer.
Yeah, Jay, I just want to be clear, is if any other entity, any other wildlife, any pet place, any animal place, they could piggyback onto this and be part of it?
They have to be approved by the governing body, either the county or the city. So that entity would need to come back to county commission and get approval
Okay.
in
and
order to
then-
be TWRA certified.
All right, is there any liability to the county in any way? If anything happens out there, since it's part of the county?
I can't say never any liability, but not on its face. I can't see of anything.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. And I will point out that the Little Ponderosa is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Anything up here? Commissioner Warfield, do you have something, sir?
I just got a question. This may be for Shane. Was there ever a program where inmates could, if they went out to James, instead of, I'm making this up, if they had a 2-year program or a 2-year stint in your fabulous facility, that they could actually get half again? Maybe if they worked a year, they would have worked off 2 years. Was that a program that you all had? Do you still have it?
It's not necessarily a program, it's state inmates get what we call 2-for-1s.
Okay.
If they're serving a 5-year sentence, for example, and they have a job, then they get 2 days for one, so they could cut their sentence in half, yes.
So that would be a really good situation for both parties like
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
Okay. Good. Thank you, sir.
Any other discussion?
Question on the motion?
Question on the motion has been called. We already had a motion, or do we?
Yes.
Who made the motion? Do you have that in it?
Tim did.
Well, Tim made a motion for discussion, and Robert made a motion to forward for permission for approval, including any amendments that need to be made after.
Very good.
And I'll second.
Sorry.
Contingent on Jay's approval.
Yeah.
Contingent on Jay's approval and modifications for TWRA. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. James, I just want to say thank you, sir, for what you do for the county, for the animals, for the people. There's no words that can express what the Little Ponderosa Zoo does, in my opinion, so thank you.
I think y'all can support. Having a bit hard. It's fine. But I think we can make a difference in lives, not only to help us, but I think by us having inmates, I've
Yeah.
worked with a lot of these inmates, I know a lot of these inmates. The judge goes to court, I've got a lot of new drug court, I've had them out there. I've got some now that works out there that's been in drug court. And I've made a difference in their lives.
Makes a
I think
big
we can make a
difference.
difference in their lives in this program as well. We can, you know, some people just need to be loved. And, you know, animals can show you love when nobody else can. And like TA and I were talking, it's just a matter of time when we're all gonna get a call. He's gonna get one, the showstop's gonna get one, and we're gonna have a bad accident with a lot of lions, tigers, or something on this interstate. They travel every day. You don't think about that, but they do. They travel every day, large animals. And right now, I'm the only person with TWRA in East Tennessee, right where we're at, that is qualified to handle them big cats. And I'm glad that you guys did this, and that way we can work together. I mean, we can better you guys can make me a better person, and we'll all work together and make out. So I wanna thank all of you. I wanna take time. I'd like to thank all of you individually, but I may not be able to, but I wanna say thank you. Thank all of you for your support. Times have been tough since that fire. It's, you know, but we got a 6,000 square feet building almost complete, and we're hoping to get it in a few more weeks. And we're gonna put the raptor center upstairs, for the birds. We're gonna start taking in hawks and owls and, eagles. And we've got some ladies that's joined us from the Central Tennessee, that's retired forestry division people, rehabbers, and they're gonna come on with us and help us. But, we, you know, and I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not, but we don't really have a raptor center in Anderson County anymore. So I said that, well, you know, the health got bad, and they almost, they did not shut it down. So, we needed this place. Roy Smith, TWA, told me they're driving baby deer, they found a baby deer here in Clinton. They got driving almost to North Carolina to take it to a rehab. And then it'll be so nice, they pick up the phone, call me at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and we'll take it in, and we'll be living there and take care of it. And, anyway, just wanna thank you all, thank all of you for your help, from December on, and the years, and a lot of you come volunteer, that we appreciate all of you, thank you.
Thank you, James, and I will just say that for those listening, if you have a chance, go to littleponderosazoo.com. Again, that's littleponderosazoo.com. I got it pulled up right now, and visit the website, and it's got a lot of good information on there. Thank you for bringing it to us, Mayor. Any other discussions on that? We'll move on. Authorization to pursue multimodal access grant for Sidewalk, Crosswalk 25W. Go ahead, Mayor.
Okay, I don't know about the feasibility of this grant pursuit, but I wanted to go ahead and bring it to you before I initiated true discussion in earnest with the city of Clinton. We have, Art Miller at our health department has brought to my attention that we have numerous families that will come down the hill and cross 25W in a stroller to come to the health department, to go to the Head Start building. There's no sidewalk there. This multimodal grant is a possibility. They are 95% TDOT funded, 5% local match. You would have to have a lead agency, whether that's the county or the city of Clinton. I don't know where the lines are, the boundaries are, if we worked on this project, but that's the area I'm talking about. So it would be a small amount of sidewalk to connect to the city sidewalks, then crosswalk, flashing lights there at 25W. Again, I don't know if it's even possible. There is a kind of a bluff there along the side, so I don't know if it's possible to even put a sidewalk there. But I did want to raise it as an issue in order for me to take a look at it.
You heard the mayor. Any discussion, motions, suggestions?
Make a motion, we pursue it, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion to pursue. We have a second. Any further discussion?
If we can get a grant, then we can make the decision.
Hearing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. New business. Old business.
Old business.
I did
sorry,
have some
Mayor, I
new
apologize.
business. I did want to just do like a quick status update, if it's all right, on the Glen Alpine Convenience Center. And I don't know, I think I saw Commissioner Warfield maybe talking about a new name, maybe something like Buffalo Creek. I don't know if we want to do that. But just a little bit of an update. We have met with the engineers, and they are designing the drainage and all that would be required there and what the setup would look like there. I did want to see if there would be interest from commission in selling the other half of that property. So what I could do would be to work with Tim Thompson, and Robert Campbell actually did the most recent survey, so they could take a look at that and maybe come back to commission with what the separation might look like. We have a legal point of access. We know how much that we're going to need on one side for the location of the convenience center. And the reason I'm asking now is as we develop this and we come back with what it's going to cost to develop the center, I think it would be, we're going to wipe out the fund balance for solid waste. I think it would be good to go ahead and let Tim Thompson at ACETA know, are we going to be interested in marketing that to business or an industry? I know that he already had a trucking company that was interested in it. I don't think it met the dimensions that they needed, but he did have someone ask about it. I did meet with him and discuss this, and we also discussed the area that was going to be the Glen Alpine Convenience Center in the industrial park. He talked about us, maybe redesignating that as well, maybe putting both of those parcels in the hands of ACDC and letting him market those for sale. And officially taking it off the books that that's the site of the future Glen Alpine, and giving him the capability to market that acreage once again. And it's got a road there now, so it should be a marketable area. I can come back with something official. I just kind of wanted to gauge your interest if that is something you all wanted to do, and then I could have Tim do the parcel work and come back, and Tim could bring you the proposal.
Commissioner McCamey.
Solid Waste Board meets tomorrow at 5 o'clock, and we're going to have an update on the proposed drawings. Been talking about a grant to complete the recycling. In the original discussions, when we talked about buying that property, the ACETA board, or Tim Thompson, who's the chairman of the board, or president, whatever they call it, had indicated that if they got that piece of property, that they could go up to $100,000 toward the project of moving convenience center. And I thought that was pretty much a given that they would be able to market that property. But did the county actually take that out from under CETA, the part that's in the park now?
Well, ACETA is the Economic Development Board, and then ACETA has a development arm that is ACDC, which is Anderson County Development Corporation. And I don't know of the last time, I have never dealt with anything where ACDC in my tenure has done any transactions. I mean, Jay, you might remember the last transaction. So I guess that board is empowered and they market that, and I don't really, I mean, I don't know, I just don't have any familiarity with the ACDC.
So what
I mean,
is
they've
Tim-
done like work grading and stuff, I guess, with their own funds in-house, and I guess the money comes back to the county.
So are you saying that ACEDA or ACDC needs commission approval to turn that property that was gonna be the convenience center back to them to market, or?
Well, I don't think Tim has been showing that site. I mean, we have, I don't even know what we have left in there. The one parcel that was next to, the facility that's being built now, that was owned by, Pharma, and I believe they sold that to another entity, and then, so I don't know, you know, I'm sorry, Commissioner, I didn't come prepared to discuss all of the acreage in there.
We own the property, and there's a couple of lots that we own back there now. I think what Tim, I'll talk to Tim and see if he's asking for us to deed that property over to them, to sell, or if he's wanting to act as our agent to sell it for us, but remember, we reserved those two lots back behind the Hollingsworth property, and we owned that, was it 2.8 at the end of that road too. Those are all buildable lots, but those are in the hands of Anderson County government. I'll see what Tim wants to do, and I'll be glad to help you with him, Mayor.
Would it be okay if we just, Mayor, referred this discussion to the solid waste and let them have their meeting and maybe they can have more discussion?
Sure, well, and I mean, I was just seeing if you all are going to be interested in selling that land, and Tim can come back with an official proposal. And I say that because some other ideas were mentioned, such as the county keeping it or maybe turning it into a park. And so that's why I wanted to gauge your desires. I mean, personally, my recommendation would be we sell it, we put it back in to solid waste, and we continue to improve other facilities and make sure that we have the funds to finish that relocation. But if the county wants to do something else, that's your decision as commissioners. You may want to turn it into a park. You may want to do something else with it.
I think it's good discussion. Oh, Commissioner Alderson.
Just the only thing it just seems like to me, until we get a more finalization on stuff, and I know we're down there, but it seems like to me we may be getting the cart before the horse. I think we need to sit back and wait just a little bit to see how that develops out, because number one, we may need it.
Right.
And then number two, with the difference of how much area we have in that, is it worth keeping for our investment to do, whether it be park, whatever. But I'd like to see us just hold off a while. I mean, yeah, it wouldn't, there's no doubt in my mind it would be easy to let Tim advertise, and it would go out fairly quick for the area it's in, industrial park connecting to that. But I don't want us to get the cart before the horse.
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Alderson. Commissioner Emory.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with Commissioner Alderson. That land sat there for a long time and no one had any interest in it for so long. And then we come to find out that the power line issue was a big issue. It takes up quite a bit of acreage. And then I'd like to see us move forward quickly with the convenience center and get that moved and get that, up there, and then see how it plays out and see what it does to that area. And then the building, the recycling building, that's definitely gonna take property. And I just don't know how much marketable property we'll have by the time we do everything we wanna do at the convenience center, and then have the power lines, that being an issue. And it's not marketable land with the power lines in that part, in that aspect of it, so. And then I'm always, I'll never forget what Jerry Creasy said, I just don't wanna get rid of any county property, and that's stuck with me ever since, so. But it's not that we don't,
Sure,
I mean, I'm just
sure.
saying, that's, I'd like to hold off and see what the convenience center does first, and let's get that situated first.
Okay.
So, thank you, Chairman.
Hey, thank you, Commissioner Emmerich. Commissioner Isbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we're actually talking about two separate pieces of property there, correct? One, and I agree with what Commissioner Alderson and Commissioner Emmerich was talking about, but the other piece of property is the one that we designated back in 2011.
Correct.
That's the one that, talking about go ahead and putting that up for sale, or let Tim Thompson
Yes.
see what he can do with that.
Yes.
So, yeah.
No action at this time. Good discussion. We can continue to discuss. Any other new items, new business? Oh, sorry, Phil. I apologize. Missed you. Thank you.
Might be a good time to put a bug in your ear. The mayor talked about, and I'm gonna sit down, it's been a long day, starting at 4 o'clock. Mayor talked about a possible name change. Yes, it's not Glen Alpin anymore. We're moving it to a different location. I've talked to a lot of people in Commissioner Emmerich's in my district, and a lot of them don't like the name Convenience. It was suggested by several people that we look at North Anderson County Collection Center, and I think that's more of a positive outlook on it. At Norris Day, probably the longest conversation that I had with Mayor Mitchell, we talked about putting a park up there. When you look at District 3, there's nothing at District 3 for people to have a walking trail, to have even dog parks, even tennis courts, or just a recreational center in general. Nothing. You've got to come down to Clinton if you actually want to have anything like that. So Norris is working on putting a sidewalk down. So the thought in my mind, and the thought with a lot of the Norris residents and a lot of the people of the community, they're real excited about the possibility of us maybe putting a park, a recreational area up there that we could connect by sidewalks to what Norris is going to do, where the residents of Norris could actually use that facility. Again, talked about a dog park, talked about a walking facility, basketball courts, whatever the case may be. And I agree 100%. I agree with Mark. We're getting the cart before the horse on this. I do not recall when we were doing all this, and my attention was 110%, us talking about putting the convenience center in and then coming back and selling that piece of property. There was nothing talked about that. This is the first that I've heard about that. So a valuable piece of property that could be used to benefit a lot of people in District 3. And there's not much up there. So just giving you my 2 cents worth at this point in time.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, any other discussions on that item? Move on. No other new business, old business. Commissioner McCamey.
At our last meeting, we recommended pursuing a grant for the possibility of Anderson County and the city of Clinton pursuing a grant for the all-inclusive park.
Yeah, I've got two to bring to you.
Okay, so you got,
Yes, sir.
okay, that's all I need.
Good comments. So we'll have that next full commission meeting.
I'll send the applications to you.
Okay, anything else? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you all.
All of it.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a nap now.